Greetings, sisters and brothers. This is Milton Alimadi, publisher of Black Star News. Please visit blackstarnews.com. You can also reach me via malimadi@gmail.com. So today I send out my usual greetings to Pan-African sisters and brothers all over the world. Today I want to discuss briefly an article that appeared in the British publication The Guardian on April the 3rd. It's an interesting article that highlights several things. Most critically to me, the sense of impunity and imperial arrogance. The article's headline is "Looted Ethiopian treasures in UK could be returned on loan." So what is it saying? Yes, precisely what the headline says. That treasures looted by Britain from Ethiopia will not be returned unconditionally to Ethiopia, but it will be loaned to Ethiopia. And where are these treasures? They're in British museums, including the Victoria and Albert Museum, the British Museum, and several other museums. And when and where were these treasures looted from? They were looted in 1868, when the British sent an army of 13,000 to fight against Emperor Tewodros II, the Battle of Maqdala in 1868, April 1868. And Emperor Tewodros was defeated, and the victors say he committed suicide, but who knows? The fact is, he ended up dead, and his castle at Maqdala was burned to the ground. And the British then plundered valuables, artifacts, manuscripts, jewelry, the Golden Crown, and most deplorably, the emperor's own son, 7-year-old child, was kidnapped as part of this plundering orgy. Alemayehu, 7-year-old son, was also kidnapped by this expedition that was led by a general named Napier, a British general. It needed, the expedition needed 200 donkeys and 15 elephants to transport these looted treasures, which are today in British institutions and museums. In 2007, Ethiopia formally filed for the return of these valuables. And I might note also that the kidnapped child, 7-year-old child, begged throughout his life to be returned to his native Ethiopia. That was denied. He died in the United Kingdom, age 18. Probably psychological trauma of being absent from his homeland. That must have contributed to his demise as well, whatever the ultimate reason was. So his body has not been returned to Ethiopia. The jewels, the valuables have not been returned either. And now, according to this article, the director of the museum, the Victoria and Albert Museum, says that while they will not be returning the valuables unconditionally to Ethiopia, they can loan it to Ethiopia. Long-term loan is what he called it. Imagine the arrogance. The thieves telling the victims that they will lend back to them their own possessions. It is so disgusting that it's not worth discussing that element alone, because there's another aspect actually that I want to spend more time addressing. We just dismissed that arrogant proposal. even though I understand Ethiopia is actually considering that proposal, according to that article anyway. Now, that might be for strategic reasons. They might say, yes, lend it back to us. Of course, once they have it, it's never going back to the United Kingdom. However, if they do lend it to you, would they not require you to sign some documents? So would you willingly put your name and signature to a document that you do not intend to honor? I don't think that is such a high crime, given the scale of what we're discussing here and the fact that the valuables belong to Ethiopia anyway. But nevertheless, I wanted to discuss a broader issue. Ethiopia is not the only victim of plundered artifacts and valuables from Africa. Nigeria, Ghana, the ancient kingdom of Benin, the ancient kingdom of Congo, East Africa, South Africa, North Africa. All these regions had their valuables and artifacts stolen during the period of conquest and during the period of colonial regime. I have a suggestion. I think the African Union should become involved. The African Union should host a special conference on recovering stolen, plundered artifacts from Africa. The African Union could then propose a panel of experts that have extensive knowledge about artifacts and antiquities, and let them come up with a committee that would then start the negotiating process in terms of negotiating the timeline, not the conditions, because they should be returned unconditionally. They should negotiate the timeline for the return of these valuables, not only the Ethiopian plundered resources, but that of all the African countries and African regions. And once these items are returned, they should be displayed in a Pan-African museum that should be built in Ethiopia. It would be fitting. It would promote a Pan-African theme of African unity. And I'm sure Africans from all over the world would be happy to contribute to this type of project. It would be fitting to even name it the Empress Taytu Pan-African Museum, to honor the legacy of Empress Taytu and her contribution to the great victory for Ethiopia and for all of Africa at the Battle of Adwa, when on March 1, 1896, Empress Taytu, Emperor Menelik II, and many other Ethiopian generals completely annihilated an invading Italian army that was seeking to colonize Ethiopia, led by General Oreste Baratieri and 4 other Italian generals. I think that would be very fitting. I think this would become a very valuable resource, not only for Africa, but for the world. People could come from all over the world to visit this museum, a world-class museum in Addis Ababa. It would become an educational institution as well. It would generate revenue that could be equally shared amongst the African countries. And this museum could then actually loan these artifacts to other museums around the world, including British museums, French museums, German museums. I understand the French president, Macron, has said that on his agenda, returning artifacts is going to be a major item. So if that is the case, that approach should be endorsed by other leaders in countries that today have the resources that were plundered from African countries. I think this would be a good strategy. And I hope the African Union support it. And if the African Union does not support it, I think this is something that we independently, as private citizens, Pan-Africans, can initiate a campaign to make that sure that this museum happens. I suggest that people that support this concept should go to the African Union website. It is www.au.int, and get in touch with the executive chair of the African Union Commission. His name is Mr. Muhammad. Get in touch with him. Send him an email message if you can. Tweet this concept, and we should actually tweet the words support a Pan-African museum. Hashtag support Pan-African museum. I think we should start promoting this concept. Anybody who wants to develop this concept further with me, I will be very happy to hear from you via email. Get in touch with me via malimadi@gmail.com. So while this article in The Guardian highlights and points out the level of impunity, of arrogance, of the people that stole the valuables, nevertheless, the same article that could actually help launch a campaign that is badly needed for us to build a Pan-African museum for all the world and all Africans, and to start the process of taking back possession of the stolen artifacts and valuables from Africa. Thank you, sisters and brothers. I hope if you approve of this message that you'll be able to share this brief video clip with other people so that we can really get this campaign kicked off. Once again, malimadi@gmail.com. Thank you, sisters and brothers. Stay strong. May the Creator protect you and continue to grant you good health.